tension, based on real events. A few years ago, my family moved into a new place in Maple Ridge, Ohio. From day one, the street felt wrong. Neighbors watched us the way people do when they want to warn you but won't. A month in, Christmas coming on, the tree was up, Mom and I were cooking, and the tree toppled by itself. No draft, no pets. We went to check, and the wall mirror let go. The glass cracked, and in the reflection behind us, a blur of a person stood for a heartbeat on the far side of the glass. We brought in a local pastor. He walked the rooms, sat quiet, then said, "They built these houses over an old cemetery. The stones were moved. The ground wasn't." Later, a neighbor finally talked. At night, he said, something sat on his chest, and when he yelled, his family in the next room heard nothing. People didn't just live here, he told us. They stayed. After that, it escalated. Most nights, we heard small footsteps in the hall, and by morning, the ornaments lined themselves into a row of 13. At 3:03, the kitchen timer blinked to midnight, and the radio, off, whispered, "Stay." Once, Mom woke to find a hair-covered man at the foot of the bed, nails too long, just listening. Another morning, a child-sized handprint bloomed on the fogged window from the inside, and a hair-thin line of ash lay along the sill like a seam. Worse came. At midnight, the closed music box in the kids' room played backwards. A goat-like face hovered in the living room window, and under the porch the frost showed hoofprints turned the wrong way. Crossing the kitchen, Mom stepped on a bare foot, ice cold, though she was home alone. In the foyer, 3 polite knocks fell in the same spot, night after night, and the peephole more than once showed an eye on our side of the door. We left. The house still sits empty. Price drops, agents change, no takers. I get it, it's not the money. That house remembers what's under it, and sometimes it reminds the living what happens when you build over someone else's rest. Next scary story. My grandmother told it in a whisper the way hers told it to her. Back when she was a kid, near the foothills outside Henley Gulch, New Mexico, there was an old county road nobody fixed anymore. It crossed a dry arroyo on a sun-baked adobe bridge, edges crumbling, hairline cracks running like veins. Folks said something lived under that bridge. Not a person, not an animal. The old country word was gin, bound to the ground. Nobody had ever seen it plain, but everybody knew the rules. After dark, don't go there, don't whistle, don't call out, and don't look under the bridge. One boy, Eli Carter, broke every rule. Late one evening, he walked home alone, whistling, kicking stones off the shoulder, laughing at the superstition. He tapped the parapet with a stick like it was hollow bone. Somewhere out in the weeds, a watch stopped at 3:03. The power lines hummed and then went dead quiet. Eli leaned over the side and looked under the bridge. That was all it took. By morning, they found him sitting barefoot in the dust beneath, mouth smeared with dark blotches like ink pressed from inside, eyes empty to focus. In his hand, he held a thin string tied with knots, moving one knot at a time, lips barely parting. They carried him home. He whispered the same thing again and again, voice papery and wrong. "It named me, so I'm part of it. Now it counts through me." The house turned cold around him. Breath smoked in a July kitchen. A damp arroyo smell pooled under his bed. For 3 days he didn't eat or sleep, only counted the knots, sometimes backward, sometimes in a rhythm like 3 knocks, a pause, 3 knocks. On the 4th night, he rose without a sound, stepped out the door barefoot, and was gone. They followed small wet footprints to the road. At the bridge, the prints reversed direction and vanished under the arch. Since then, every year on that same night, people say you can hear a voice under the bridge. It isn't loud. It's close, but not quite here, and it says, "Come down." It's dark, but it remembers you. It waits. Dry weeds lean against the wind. Moths spiral down through a shaft of cold like smoke. If you hold your phone up, the camera stutters and the timestamp hangs at 3:03. Sometimes a string with new knots lies across the parapet at dawn, damp with silt as if pulled through the arroyo sand. The elders still give the same warning. A jinn can live in fire, sand, or water, but the worst kind lives in shadow, and it counts. If you pass old places, don't call out and don't ask who's there. If you hear your name from under a bridge, do not look down, and never, ever answer, especially after dark. Some debts are paid with a single glance. Some doors open just by saying, "Who's there?" Next scary story. My name's Daniel, I'm 20 now. But this happened in 2017 when I was 12, spending a week at my grandmother's place outside Pine Hollow, Oregon, where the fog sits low over hayfields and a black wall of timber starts right past the fence line. The town felt half abandoned. Peeling paint, empty porches, a paper mill's breath drifting over the valley. Behind Grandma's shed began a trail into the empty Hood foothills, and on the third gray afternoon my friends Tyler, Josh, and Evan came out from town so we could hike the ravine like we always did. The woods were wrong quiet. No jays, no flies, even the creek sounded padded. Near the cut bank we found a circle of stakes hammered into the duff, twined with horsehair and red thread. In the center lay a fresh elk carcass, chest split clean, the heart missing, steam lifting into the cold. The smell wasn't just blood. It was wet iron and pond mud. Josh tried to joke, but his voice came out thin. My phone clock flickered 3:03, 3:02, 3:03, and the compass spun twice and died. That's when Tyler said, very quietly, "We should go." He was standing between the pines, huge coat hanging wrong on wide shoulders, pants old and mud-glossed at the knees. His face looked human except the mouth sat like a stitched seam, and his eyes were human except there was nothing in them. He didn't move, but the shadow behind him lagged a half beat, like a bad live stream. We ran. Behind us a twig clicked, 3 taps, pause, 3 taps, counting. At the treeline we burst into the field and realized Tyler wasn't with us. We called till our throats hurt. No service. Somewhere back in the timber came a polite knock, 3 times, as if on the trunk of a door that wasn't there. We found him 5 hours later, after dark, by the ravine, tied upright to a cedar with braided grass and strips of burlap. He was breathing, eyes open and glass dry, lips pulled into that knot smile. Around the tree the ground held a ring of backward hoofprints. No approach, no exit. When we cut him down, the knots unwove themselves like wet rope, and Tyler whispered in a voice that matched his and didn't. "First one, first one." His shirt hid long scratch rows curving toward his collarbone, and on the cedar bark were 3 neat gouges repeating up the grain, as if someone had practiced a mark. His phone later showed a photo of the 4 of us on the trail, our faces blurred out as if smeared by a thumb. None of us talked about it after. Josh started to stutter, Evan woke screaming some nights, and Tyler went empty around the edges, like something in him had been counted and set aside. Every October, first frost, I feel that same gaze from the fence line, and my window sometimes fogs a child-sized handprint that fades while I watch. At 3:03, there's still the soft 3 knocks somewhere in the boards. If you ever find a staked circle in a quiet forest, don't step inside. If the woods begin to count, don't answer. And if a tall man's shadow moves out of time with his body, don't look back. Thanks for watching until the next scary stories.